Picture a steel monster the size of a two-story house, rolling backward down a copper mine ramp with nobody able to stop it. The wheels stand taller than the man standing beside them. The ramp falls away at more than 10% grade, a slope so steep your boots slide on loose rock. Down at the bottom sits a Caterpillar 793D haul truck, 240 tons of loaded steel, crawling along the same narrow road. The driver inside that yellow cab does not yet know that something is coming down the hill far too fast. This is the morning of January 28th, 2022, at the Morenci Copper Mine in Greenlee County, Arizona. And in the next 90 seconds, a brake failure almost wrote a death toll across one of the busiest haul roads in America. Let me show you exactly how close it came. The Morenci pit is one of the largest open copper mines on the continent. Its northwest ramp is a brutal spiral, an average grade above 10% with sections steeper than 12. Trucks climb it loaded and crawl down it empty, all day, every day. On that January morning, a concrete mixer truck took a rejected load back down the ramp. Riding the same road in front of it was Brenda Owen, the operator inside that Caterpillar 793D haul truck. Her machine weighs more than a fully loaded jetliner. She was doing everything right, holding the speed limit, watching her mirrors, working a normal shift. She had no idea she was about to become the last obstacle between a runaway and the bottom of the pit. Now, stop and understand what makes these cat haul trucks special, because it is the exact thing that betrayed everyone that day. The Caterpillar 793 is not a truck in any way you have driven. It hauls 250,000 pounds. Caterpillar engineered it with 4-corner wet disc brakes, steel discs spinning inside an oil bath, continuously cooled by water to oil heat exchangers. The rear braking surface alone covers more than 20,000 square inches. That oil-cooled design exists for one reason. A dry brake on a long mine grade overheats, glazes, and fades to nothing in seconds. The wet disc system was supposed to make fade impossible. The retarder, a separate engine braking system, holds the truck back on the descent, so the service brakes barely work at all. On paper, a 793 cannot run away. That promise is the whole point. That promise is also what makes the failures so terrifying. Because the machine is only as good as the people maintaining it. And that is the rot at the center of this whole story. When accountants run a mining fleet instead of engineers, brake inspections become a cost line to shrink. Pre-shift checks become a checkbox somebody initials in the dark. The 793 was built by engineers who assumed the brakes would be kept in spec. Strip out the maintenance discipline, lean on contractors squeezed to the bone, and the most over-engineered brake system on Earth becomes a loaded gun. That is the pattern you see again and again across the American mining ground, and it is the reason this channel exists. If you want to see what really happens when these giant machines fail, subscribe to Quisoup. If you are watching on your TV, find Quisoup and hit subscribe there. Here is how a brake system this large actually dies. It does not happen all at once with a bang. It happens slowly, through neglect, then all at once, on the worst possible hill. The first failure is adjustment. As brake pads wear, the slack adjuster has to take up the gap. Let it drift out of spec, and the brake stroke gets longer and longer until the brake barely touches. The second failure is heat. On a grade more than 10%, descending loaded, a worn or mismatched brake cannot shed the energy fast enough. The oil cooling that defines the CAT design only works if the components inside are right. The third failure is the air system. Mixed brake chambers, leaking lines between the park and service circuits, worn S-cam parts. Any one of them bleeds away the force that clamps the discs. Stack 3 of those together, and you no longer have a brake. You have a pedal that does nothing. It helps to picture the scale of the machine sitting in that danger zone. The Caterpillar 793D stands more than 20 feet tall at the top of the dump body and stretches over 40 feet long. Each tire is taller than a grown man and costs more than a family car. Empty, the truck weighs in the range of a loaded city bus times 5. Loaded, it carries that 250,000 pounds of copper ore up, out of the pit, and back down again, shift after shift. There is no swerving a machine like that on a narrow ramp. There is no panic stop. Everything it does on a grade depends entirely on the retarder and the brakes, doing exactly what Caterpillar promised they would do. When those systems hold, the truck is one of the safest heavy machines ever built. When the maintenance behind them is gutted, the the same mass becomes the most dangerous object on the mountain. Now compare how the rivals think about this, because the contrast is the whole story of why Cat keeps slipping. Liebherr, pronounced Lee Bear, is still owned by the founding family, and family-owned firms protect their engineering reputation like a name on a headstone. Komatsu builds practical, serviceable trucks, where the maintenance access was designed in from the start, not value-engineered out to please a quarterly earnings call. Even Volvo, fighting in the cab comfort fight, treats operator trust as the product. The villain in the Morenci story is not Caterpillar, the engineering company. The villain is the finance-first culture that decontents the maintenance program, locks operators out of affordable parts, and stretches every inspection interval until the math works on a spreadsheet and fails on a ramp. The engineers built a truck that should never run away. The accountants found a way. That is precisely what investigators found after this incident. The Mine Safety and Health Administration, the federal agency known as MSHA, tore the brakes apart. They found 3 brakes out of adjustment past the retirement limit, and a 4th nearly there. They found mismatched brake chambers, a standard chamber paired with a long stroke chamber that could never apply equal force. They found a brake shoe positioned wrong. They found an air leak bleeding between the park and service circuits. They found 5 of 6 S-cam components worn past the point where the rules say you scrap them. Every single one of those was a maintenance failure. Every single one was preventable with an inspection that took 10 minutes. Now run the clock. At 8:35 in the morning, the mixer truck started down the northwest ramp with its rejected load. The grade pulled it forward. The driver pressed the brakes and felt the pedal go soft, then go to the floor. The speed did not drop. It climbed. The road ahead curved hard against the wall of the pit, and beyond the curve, the truck would be in open air. At 9:03, the Runaway swept past its own escort vehicle and then past Brenda Owen in the Caterpillar 793 D-Haul truck, still descending the same ramp. She watched it blow by far over the Hall Road speed limit and grabbed her radio. For a few seconds, 240 tons of cat steel sat directly in the path of an uncontrolled machine on a curve neither one could leave. Think about the geometry of that moment. A loaded 793 cannot swerve. It cannot brake hard without risking its own slide on loose rock. The ramp is barely wider than the trucks themselves, walled by berm on one side and a drop on the other. If the Runaway had clipped that haul truck, you would not be looking at one wrecked vehicle. You would be looking at a $250,000 machine knocked offline and into the pit, and a chain reaction down a road packed with equipment and people. The entire bottom of that mine was in the blast radius of one truck, whose brakes were never properly checked. Quick break before we get into what happened next. If you have been on this channel for a while, watching how these machines are built and how they break, there is a way to make sure you do not miss what is coming. Join the operator tier. For $4.99 a month, you get badges that mark you as a working professional in the comments section, custom emoji to call out the corporate decisions that killed Cat, and you get every video 24 hours before the rest of the internet. To join, open your phone and search Quisoup membership, or go to the channel page and tap join. Join the operators and engineers who are paying attention. Now back to it. The Runaway never hit the haul truck. The mixer veered out of control on the curve, rolled onto its side, and slid into a berm. Investigators measured the skid marks at 252 feet. 2 men were inside that cab. One survived with serious injuries. One did not. MSHA confirmed the brakes were the direct cause, and that no pre-operational inspection adequate to catch those defects had been done. The Caterpillar 793D rolled to a stop untouched, its driver shaken but alive, only because the Runaway lost control a few yards short of her wheels. That is the whole margin. A few yards on a copper ramp. This was not a freak event. Look at Smoky Canyon Mine in Afton, Wyoming. In August of 2019, a fuel and lube truck lost power and brakes on the main haul road, a 7% grade, and ran roughly 1 mile downhill before it struck the Runaway truck ramp and overturned. The driver died. MSHA found 3 brakes with strokes over the maximum and brake drums worn past the allowed diameter. Same disease. Brakes that were never maintained, an inspection that never happened, a grade that did the rest. The Runaway ramp at the bottom. That long uphill bed of loose gravel built to swallow a truck that cannot stop is the only thing standing between a brake failure and a body count at half the mines in this country. And here's the part that should make every operator angry. The technology to prevent this exists and has existed for decades. The Caterpillar 793 carries an automatic retarder control that holds speed on a grade without the operator touching anything. Newer trucks log brake temperature and stroke and flag a fault before the truck ever leaves the shop. The engineering is not the problem. The problem is a business culture that treats the maintenance bay as overhead, that runs trucks past their inspection intervals, that hands brake work to the lowest contractor bid. The same finance-first thinking that hollowed out American manufacturing is the thinking that sends a truck with 5 blown brake components down a 12% grade with 2 men inside. Here is the question I want you to sit with. The Caterpillar 793 D-Haul truck that nearly got crushed at Morenci was doing everything right, and it almost died because of another machine nobody bothered to maintain. So who do you blame when a runaway happens on a mine ramp? The operator who pressed a pedal that did nothing, or the management that turned brake inspections into a number on a spreadsheet? Tell me in the comments. The lesson from Morenci is the lesson of this entire channel. These machines do not fail, because the engineers got it wrong. Caterpillar built that wet disc brake system to be the best on the planet, and it is. They fail because, somewhere up the chain, a decision got made that maintenance costs too much, that an inspection can wait, that a worn S-cam can run one more shift. The 793 is a masterpiece of mechanical engineering, pointed straight at a financial culture that does not deserve it. Every operator who climbs into that cab is trusting that somebody, somewhere, kept the promise the engineers built into the steel. One more thing before you go. If you really want to be part of the inner circle on this channel, join the site foreman for $9.99 a month. You get a public shout out in upcoming videos. Your name, your operation, your story, validated in front of the entire QuiSoup audience. Plus everything from the operator tier. To join, open your phone and search QuiSoup membership, or go to the channel page and tap join. And remember, the most dangerous part of a Caterpillar 793 was never the engineering. It was the man with the budget who decided the brakes could wait. See you in the next one.